If I can have your attention, please. Everybody grab a seat. We'll get started if we can. I want to say welcome to everyone and thank all the presenters who made their way to share with us their knowledge of this very important issue to the Chesterfield watershed, which by our estimates impacts 10 parishes and almost a million. So I'm going to ask Colonel Ellison to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will. Bless this proceeding. Thank all the volunteers for all the inputs. I want to recognize our guest speakers, Dr. David Sherby, with the main district, Donald Segura, Director of Chesterfield Freshwater District, Warren Bullard with the RAF Levy Board from Alexandria, Jeff Briscoe, who's with the Corps, he's on his way. He's here. Okay, great. Thank you. Excuse me. Jeff, thank you for being here. Rachel Goodell with the KBI Planning and St. Martin was send people, so that's our list. So with that, I'll turn the program over to Dave Dixon, who has a presentation. Dave.
We have a few other people that's supposed to be here. One from the governor's office goes out there. He said he was going to be 30 minutes early. With that, we started. What we've got here is our analysis of what happened in 16 and some recommendations to prevent something like this from never happening again. And the way we plan on doing this is as we get to certain slides that may introduce these people down here, they'll have 5 minutes to speak. We have a timekeeper. Where's the lady that's doing the timekeeper? All right, you watch her when you give you a chance to speak, and she'll warn you when you start running out of time. And we're going to be asking y'all to report about what you know about what's going on in our watershed. Okay. So with that, if I can operate this thing. Oh, one thing I'd like to put a face behind what happened here. That picture of that house right there, the lady that owns that house is sitting right over here. Would you stand up just a minute? Thank you. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. She's a widow, okay? And look, we cannot have this sort of thing going on again, because it is extremely stressful for people, especially when they're like widows and they may be a little older or something like me. So we got to fix this. We don't have 20 years to study what happened and 20 years to figure out how to fix it. That's ridiculous. Okay, and with that, let's do the wrong way. Okay, there's 3 types of floods. Major river floods. Okay, we're not going to be talking about that today, even though we got one coming, okay? When I say major river floods, we're talking about the Mississippi, the Atchafalaya, and the Red. And we are adjacent to the Red and the Atchafalaya in our watershed here. And then there's storm surge floods, like a hurricane, tropical storm, etc. We're not really going to be addressing that, but what we're going to be addressing is major rainfall events like 16. And Harvey, even though it was a tropical storm, it was a major rainfall event versus a storm surge event. So that's the type of floods that we're going to be addressing, and these projects we're talking about can deal with. Okay. And to give y'all a little feel for our watershed, this map is a result of a study that was done in 1993. That's the result of the study. There was no projects done. Okay. We inherited the map from a gentleman that was on the committee that studied the flood of '93, in his frustration that nothing was done except for drawing a map. Okay, so you can see our watershed goes all the way up to Alexandria, over toward Marksville, down toward Bill Patton, roughly parallels I-49 down to us. Then 167 down to Abbeville. And on the east side, roughly parallels the Henderson Levee, which goes all the way up into Evalds Parish. Okay. Some of the major bayous in our watershed, north to south, Bayou Rapides and Bayou Buff up in Rapides Parish, Cocodrie, over in the, again in Rapides and Evangeline, in St. Leonard, Bayou de Glaze and Evalds, Bayou Catawba and St. Landry, and Bayou Teche and the Vermilion River down here. So y'all are pretty familiar with at least the ones down in this watershed right here. A recap of the flood of 16, Acadiana plus regional impacts, okay? The regional impacts include some of the data from the region, some of the data from the state. In our watershed, we have approximately 10,375 plus houses that were flooded. And I'll show you in a minute where we got that data. Okay, we were under the impression that last year's meeting we had about 3,900. Turns out there was 10,375. That's a lot. We had 84,900 plus homes flooded in the whole state in the 16 event. And numerous businesses were flooded or adversely impacted. Louisiana total, I don't have it broken down by parish or by region, had a total payout of flood insurance grants and loans of $4.259 million. That came off of FEMA's website. Okay, and if you live in one of these, when flood insurance comes up, if you buy flood insurance, you may have noticed that your flood insurance rates may have increased if they put you in a flood. Now put you in a flood zone like they did me. Okay, from my home. This is the data from the homes that were damaged. This came off the Louisiana Senate website. And I just pulled up the parishes in our watershed, and I added Rapides in there, a data based on a visit we made up to Rapides and met with the president of the police jury up there, the information he gave us. I did not count Evangeline because a very small part of Evangeline is part of this particular watershed we're talking about. Again, on our watershed, when we get to that, there's two main watersheds down here in our region down here. One of them is Teche, Vermilion, Catawba, up to Bayou Buff and Bayou Rapides. That's the one we're going to be talking about. It over right to the west of us is the Mermentau watershed. We're not going to be talking about that. So the numbers you're going to see and the projects you're going to see are going to be addressing this watershed up to Alexander down here. Okay. And at this point, we have some esteemed speakers. We're going to start with the Bayou Vermilion District. Dr. David Cherubin is the head of the district. David.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon, and welcome everybody to Bayou Vermilion District's Vermilionville. Very pleased to see such a large crowd. If I know this many people coming on a charge of admission, could be a little bit more here toward our good causes here. Of course, as you probably know, the Bayou Vermilion District was created by an act of the legislature in the mid-'80s. And I think y'all look too young to remember back in the mid-'80s, but I'll tell you about the history. I'm sure some of y'all remember probably growing up in Vermilion, on the Vermilion, and how polluted that river was. As a matter of fact, it was once designated as the most polluted river in the United States at a time when rivers were catching fire in the United States. The Lafayette Chamber of Commerce, under Mr. Bob Cole, who was the president at that time, decided to have a project, and that project was to clean up the Bayou Vermilion. Of course, prior to that, the Teche Vermilion Freshwater District had been created to reestablish the natural flow into the Teche Vermilion basin, because after the Great Flood of 27, the Mississippi, of course, flooded this area and put millions of people out of their homes. They started building the levees, and of course they levied off the Atchafalaya and no longer permitted the water to flow naturally as it once did into the watershed. Cut to the present day, I guess you could say. We here at Bayou Vermilion District also are very dedicated to the quality of the water. Not so much as the quantity, even though we did get a lot of quantity of water here back in August of 2016. Some of y'all probably were here and remember us. We were completely surrounded in water. We were a little island, and we were actually, for about 2 weeks, having to canoe in. We had a little landing from the Jean Lafitte Center to the right, and just beyond the tennis courts over there on the other side. And we were completely cut off for about 2 weeks, and that really opened up, no, not really opened up our eyes, because this was something I think we could have seen coming, and we did see coming. We just didn't expect to see that soon. And prior to that also, I had been talking with some of our state legislators, especially Mr. Stephen Argo, he was a state legislator, to talk and starting the conversation, because I'm almost sick of saying it myself, but water knows no political boundaries, and we knew that if we were going to handle the water in this area, we'd have to collaborate and go beyond our own political boundaries, because we, by Vermilion District, we can only work within Lafayette Parish. But of course, the problem goes beyond upstream and downstream and across the bayou and all over. So we were able to start the conversation, but it really wasn't until the flood of 2016 that people started to understand, not only here, but of course, people tend to forget that Shreveport in March of that year had a major flood also, and at the same time as we did, in that tropical storm that really didn't get going until on top of us. We got a hurricane without wind. Basically, that's why we had so many inches of rain dumped on us. And around the Emite River, around Baton Rouge also, was also heavily impacted. And I think that kind of caught people's attention. And luckily now, we have the Watershed Initiative. As a matter of fact, we just had a meeting yesterday at the Light Center. I see a lot of the same people here, Rachel, Dr. Habib, a lot of key players were involved in that effort also. So luckily things are starting to move in the right direction, but this is a huge undertaking. And we invited Vermilion District and we with the Sierra Club and the Concerned Citizens, we're all just one small part of that. But I think if we all continue pushing, because one of the things that was brought up at the meeting yesterday is that after a disaster happens, we tend to get amnesia. We tend to forget, we punctuate our lives in South Louisiana by disasters, Betsy or Camille or whatever, not the oil spill, whatever it is. But a few years after, we kind of forget about it, But this is something we can't forget about, and I'd like to thank the Sierra Club and the Acadiana Citizens for flood prevention. Is that the name of it? For continuing to push this ball down the field, because this is something very important. And I plan to continue living here in South Louisiana, hoping our children and our grandchildren continue here to live in South Louisiana. Otherwise, I don't know why we would be here at Vermilionville promoting this culture that we have also, because there won't be any people to live that culture. So thank you very much for coming, and don't forget we have drinks and jambalaya if we see we'll be back too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And I'd like to ask Thomas Segarra, head of the Test Vermilion Freshwater District, say a few words.
Thank you, Dave. Thank all of you for all of your interest in our watershed and how water moves through the watershed. The story of Teche Vermilion would start way back in the 1930s. David kind of mentioned the fact that the flow of fresh water to Bayou Vermilion, Vermilion River, and Bayou Teche was cut off from the Atchafalaya River and the natural flow of water from up north whenever all of the protection levees and floodways were installed in order to control these major floods. David was talking about the Mississippi River floods. So those levees and floodways were very important. They've saved us many times since they were installed. But one of the negative things for our area was whenever they were put up, our flow of fresh water discontinued. So after a period of years, Bayou Teche and Vermilion River was suffering from stagnant, polluted conditions, and also there was saltwater intrusion was another problem in the lower part of the Vermilion River. So the Department of Public Works conducted a study and determined the cause of this study was the fact that there was not sufficient flow in our watershed, and they also concluded that the way to solve this problem was to install a pumping station around the Trot Springs area and reintroduce water from the Atchafalaya River into our watershed. So this happened as a result of a lot of lobbying, a lot of effort from all of the governing bodies of 4 parishes: Vermilion, Iberia, St. Martin, and Lafayette Parish. All of these parishes were suffering. They put out a tremendous effort, and they were successful in getting the federal government to put in the Teche Vermilion Freshwater Project. One of the things that the federal government required whenever they put in the project was that a local district be created, and that district was going to have to be responsible for running the project and to keep it going, to replace all of the features of the project as they broke down over the years. So the district was created in the late 60s, and they passed a 1.5 mil property tax in the 4 parishes of the district. And each 10 years, that millage is renewed. So it was renewed in 1970, 1980, 1990, on down to where it's time to renew it again. But this is the funding source to keep the project going, and it's also the only funding source to be able to repair and replace the project on out into the future. So the way the project works is that the guidelines for pumping are when Bayou Catawba is at a certain level, and we run however many pumps are necessary to hold it at that level. And there's different times in the year, there's the different levels that we're required to hold it to. One of the things that we've learned and that we are doing on a big time basis right now, and we were doing this even before the 2016 flood, was monitoring weather conditions. And we can monitor conditions, and whenever we determine that there's a threat of rainfall, we can stop pumping. There's not anything that makes us have to continue pumping. So we can actually let Bayou Catawba drop for a couple of days, and if we miss that rain, we can start the pumps back up and regain what we had lost. So we have been doing this, and the project has worked just like it was planned and expected to do. We have recreated the flow of fresh water. The district has prevented stagnation and pollution. The district has also eliminated the threat of saltwater intrusion, not only for irrigation, but also the threat of contaminating our groundwater aquifer. I might want to mention, and I think I'm about to run out of time, but the district has been working closely with the Sierra Club and with all of their efforts in addressing these problems. I can't tell you how many miles, they could probably tell you how many miles they've traveled since 2016 and how many meetings they've gone to. We've attended meetings with them in New Orleans. We've attended meetings with them in Port Allen. So we support what you're doing. And they have pointed out several things that they think that the district can do to help regulate flows during these high rainfall events. And many of those things we had been doing prior to the storm, but whenever there's water rising at the Surrey Street Bridge, one of the ways that water gets into the Vermilion River is through the Ruth Canal, and there is a structure on that canal which the district closes whenever the elevation of Surrey Street reaches a certain elevation. There's also a structure on the Lorville Canal below St. Martinville that we open whenever there's a lot of rainfall, and this relieves water from Bayou Teche and goes into Lake Foster Point. So I have brought with me maps of the watershed, which shows where the pumping station is and how the water flows through our watershed. I also have pictures of the various structures that we are responsible to maintain, and I'll be happy to go over all of those with you. I'll be here till the end of the meeting. I'll be happy to go over those and answer any questions that you have about the district. So again, thank you very much for all of your interest.
I'd like to say these two organizations, Bayou Community District and Teche Community Freshwater, have been partners in our effort in trying to get something done about our flooding problem, and we really appreciate their help. So, help support. Okay, we have on our agenda updates from any of the parishes that may have shown up. I may not know the officials for the parishes. Is there anybody here from that can represent any of the parishes here? Yes, sir. Can you come up to the podium and speak, please? We thank Vermilion Parish for showing up. Is any other parishes here, by the way? That's part of the problem, people. It really is. And all their contact information of the parish presidents, the people in charge, on the back of that handout. They'll need to call. Thanks.
I'm Fred Landry. I'm with the Vermilion Parish Police Jury. I really hadn't planned on speaking tonight. But I guess our concern in Vermilion is all the water has to come through us. So it's very important that we do a regional plan to handle these events. So, and these guys are doing a good job for us. That's all I got.
All right. Well, we can say a few words about what's being done in some of these parishes. We are aware of some of the things that we do know. Lafayette Parish has started cleaning their coulees and their ditches. Okay, and they are making some progress. They do have a website set up showing what's been done. We have a representative from another parish here.
No, sir, just a question about dredging. Any word on dredging?
We're going to talk about that in a little while. Okay. It's the Lafayette Consolidated Government website, and they have a dashboard on their drainage project. There is about some of the data that's up there, but they are working on digging out a lot of food.
Just want to comment about St. Martin Parish, and they were to send someone who didn't make it here for one reason or another. So I know they passed a property tax that addresses this issue, and they're doing several projects that have enormous benefit to us. And I'll go through them. First of all, in accordance with the Corps of Engineers study done in '94 after the '93 flood, they suggested that the Cypress Island Swamp be connected to the Bayou Teche below the Keystone Dam. And that only took about a mile of canal to do, and that would be with a floodgate with rules of how it operates and when it operates. And the second suggestion was that during high water, a flood event, you would open the Keystone Lock for the purpose of flood control, as it was done in 1927. Now, the computer model that was performed in this whole study, and there's a lengthy report that was put out, showed that doing those two things would lower the level of the Vermilion 6 to 8 feet. Now, one of the things that drives us in this whole issue is that all the homes flooded in this watershed, 73% have less than a foot. And so what happens on the Teche is super important. The Teche is a reservoir. Anytime you put a dam on a river, you make the river into a lake. And you can do it in Marsh, you can do it in Montana, but the result is exactly the same. You're holding the water, which is a real problem when the flood comes. So St. Martin Parish is moving on that. The only thing they lack is a core permit. They're also dredging Bayou Ami, which is the corridor from Catawba to the Lake Falls Point Doe Creek system. Super important. They are dredging Cypress Coulee and LaSalle Coulee, which drains Youngsville and Broussard into the Cypress Island Swamp. Along with the opening into the Keystone Lake Falls Point system, that'll benefit Lafayette Parish probably a lot more than St. Martin Parish. So my hat's off to them. They're actually spending the money. They have other projects that are quite beneficial also. So we commend them for that.
If y'all send Chester Cedars, President of St. Martin Parish, a Christmas card, if you live here in Lafayette or you live in Dominion Parish, he's helping us out a lot. Okay, we do have Warren Bird from up in central Louisiana, and I asked him to talk a little bit about what he knows about what's going on up there with the drainage projects and the walls and the fees. Warren, could you say a few words about that?
Good evening. My name is Warren Bird. I'm the Executive Director for the Red River Chapel and Miami Levy District in Alexandria. So I'm probably officially the Yankee here in Rapides Parish. But I appreciate y'all having me here this evening. It's hard for me to necessarily speak on behalf of some of the other agencies that are not represented here tonight from Central Louisiana, such as the parish government, as well as the city of Alexandria and other nearby local municipalities. But I can say that drainage is obviously a bigger issue there, a big issue there as well as it is here. We have, the Levy District has partnered with one of the local gravity drainage districts in Alexandria, and we have made an initiative to help clean out some of our major drainage ways that run through central Louisiana, through Alexandria, into Avoyelles Parish, and then into St. Landry Parish. You guys may, well, that kind of hurts you guys, but it is a regional collaborative effort. But the city drainage is utmost important for the city of Alexandria, and looking at different options on getting that water elsewhere, and also for us maintaining, cleaning out, dredging, existing canals and bayous and drainage ways in central Louisiana. We've probably noticed, I think everybody can admit to, some of the lack of maintenance that has been done throughout the parishes on existing drainage ways. So we're trying to address those initially as well. And so one of the issues that might be most interesting to you guys is an issue that was brought up a while back ago. But we actually, in December, we had a meeting with Army Corps discussing Bayou Glaze. Because I know you guys get a lot of waters from Bayou Glaze, but more specifically about an existing structure that has been abandoned on Bayou Glaze called the Bourdonville flood control structure. And I can go into detail about some of that. It was a structure that was built in 1929, and it was turned over to us, the Levy District, after construction. Rehabilitation of that structure is responsibility of the federal government. And then in 1939, the Bayou Glaze diversion canal was constructed, and it connects Bayou Glaze to the Western Atchafalaya Basin Protection Levee canal or bar pit, different terminologies as to what it is. And that was built to restore basically a major drainage outlet off of Bayou Glaze. To put things in perspective just a little bit, after our our meeting in December about this particular structure, this particular floodgate structure, done a lot of digging with Army Corps and have a lot of good folks at the New Orleans District that helped me research and dig up some files. And in fact, we had to reach out to some of the retired Army Corps folks in order to get this. But it's a history on the Bayou Glade structure and why the options and the reports that were written as to why it was abandoned, why it was closed down. So just to give you a little perspective, 1979, this report was done on the floodgate there in Bayou Glades. It says this report is in response to a request from Senators David Bennett Johnson, Russell Long, Representative Gillis Long, the Office of Public Works, State of Louisiana, Boys Parish Police Jury, and the Rabb Levee District regarding possible rehabilitation, replacement, or abandonment of the Bourdon floodgate structure and the construction of a permanent closure. Doing more research on that particular structure, because I know this interests a lot of you guys in here, as well as the Levee District. This structure was deemed inoperable, in need of major repair. Is that my 1 minute? Okay, wow. It was inoperable. The gates, just real quick, the gates would not seal properly. The hoist system was inoperable. The structure had numerous cracks, especially along the front wall in the vicinity of the gates. Pronounced leakage through these cracks was observed during the 1973, 74, and 75 flood events. So obviously, Army Corps saw this as a threat to the overall levee segment. So 6 plans were put into place, 6 options, from replacement all the way to abandonment. Numbers are, even back in 1979, numbers that were high. Replacing the structure was about $3.5 million. But and I can show you all this, and y'all can look over this. But it's a 2-part problem. It's not just a structure. Obviously, as you guys know, probably the structure was abandoned. The option to abandon the structure, leave it in place, and build earth and berm to close it off. But getting that structure back open is issue number 1. Issue number 2, and the report outlines this as well, is dredging out Bayou Glades from the structure on the east side all the way out to Simmsport to the Chapala River. It's about a 40-mile stretch. Back in '79, I think there was estimated probably about $8 to $9 million to dredge that out. So opening the structure alone wouldn't be enough. It would be opening the structure and dredging out Bayou Glades. So it's a 2-part issue. I've only been looking over this report for the past 30, 45 days. I've had some discussions prior to this with some of the New Orleans District folks. It's a tough one because of the extent of the project. My suggestion, and I've talked to some of you guys here about the modeling that would probably need to be done, next to see if it would be possible to get this structure back open and operable in some form, some fashion, some degree. And the modeling will help, do a benefit cost analysis and help, further get this process going, either make it a viable solution or one that's not. So that's probably the biggest update I have for you guys on this structure. And again, I have a full report here. It's very interesting, a lot of history, a lot of very vital information, that people in this room will find very interesting. So.
Thanks a lot, Warren. Really great update. Part of what you're going to learn, you're going to get a history lesson tonight. And part of my presentation is a history lesson tonight. And a lot of the people that made the decisions to abandon that gate, they're probably not with us anymore. But that was a long time ago. But anyway, anybody else from a parish here that might want to give us an update what they're doing?
I'll just make a comment about St. Mary Parish because they do something very important to us too. One of the projects that affects us is this. The water in this whole system goes through 2 points. the Surrey Bridge or the Sherrington Canal Railroad Bridge. Now, all that water, about 70% of that water goes straight from Baldwin into West Coast Blanche Bay through a little segment of marsh between Intercoastal and the bay called the Jaws. It is completely filled in. That channel is 200 feet wide, 40 feet deep. It's an 8,000 foot channel. So all the water literally has to go west into Vermilion Bay, 22 miles distant from West Coast Blanche. Now, that raises water levels in the whole system. We don't know whether it's 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever, it's a negative. It's not an expensive project to do it, but St. Mary Parish has moved to get that done. And they put up it's about a $4 million project. The St. Mary Levy Board and the parish jointly are putting up the money. And it really has very little benefit to St. Mary Parish. It benefits all the other parishes. But that project was denied because not one home flooded in the 016 flood in St. Mary Parish. But this would affect Iberia, St. Martin, St. Landry, Evangeline, Vermilion, Lafayette. Super important. And so we commend them for going forward for that project. There's another project that a parish is looking beyond their own boundaries and trying to help everybody involved.
Send them a Christmas card too. Okay, we're going to hear from Rachel Goodall now. Rachel is the project manager for the Acadiana Planning Commission. A little history on that. They are administering a $25 million. Why don't you just tell them
Okay.
what you do, what you
Let's do my thunder. So as you said, I'm Rachel Goodall with the Acadiana Planning Commission. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. For those of you who don't know, the Acadiana Planning Commission is one of 8 districts within the state of Louisiana. It's a planning district that's comprised of 7 parishes: Acadia, Evangeline, Iberia, Lafayette, St. Martin, St. Landry, and Vermilion. And what our role is we have the elected officials basically governing our planning district. And as Mr. Dixon alluded to a little bit earlier, last year we helped facilitate a process to basically prioritize projects within the region. We were under severe time constraints, but we managed to pull it off. There was about $25 million that was allocated to our region for the disaster of 2016. And we asked a bunch of our local engineers and stakeholders in the region to come up with these projects that we would in turn apply for hazard mitigation funding. So where we sit today with these particular projects is we're in conversation with the state to move these projects forward. Many of them were located throughout the region. We were asked to basically take a step back and not assess beyond our typical projects and look at more projects with regional impact. So we have a lot of detention projects that were proposed, and these projects basically sit right now ready to go through a long process, a slow process. We never said it would be easy or fast money, but basically we'll hopefully kick off a good bit of these projects. By the end of this year, we'll get notices to proceed on some of these projects, working in coordination with GOSEP, and Casey can touch on them a little bit more in a few minutes. But I did also want to bring up that Acadiana, out of this process, one of the projects that Acadiana Planning Commission is pioneering or championing is a gauge project. And out of the prioritization process of the $25 million, we conducted a series of outreach meetings to different public people throughout the parishes. And one of the things that emerged, a common theme, was that we needed more science and more data to back some of these local decisions that we're making, and understand the upstream and downstream impacts from a scientific perspective. So what we're hoping to do by this summer is really engage in a kickoff of that particular project. I do want to mention that we have critical partners at the table, such as Tesh Vermilion Freshwater District and UL, who are helping to fund this project and putting their technical backing behind this project. We're hoping that potentially in the year 2020, again, these are very slow money, but we're continuing to be held accountable to make sure that this project gets completed. But in 2020, we're hoping that this project would actually be installed and that we'll see some actual construction, if you will, on this project. But at least for this year, we're focusing on a public outreach process where we will engage a lot of the local entities and finalizing a design network and actually understanding how many gauges we're going to deploy, where we're going to deploy them, what type of sensors will be installed, and specifically where. And we'll work through the application phase of creating that finalized design network, and we'll come to you all for good feedback. And then one of the other components of that particular project is developing a public user interface that we can communicate near-time, real-time alerts to during flooding events to help better inform some of our decision-making at the local level. With that, I do also want to say that we're continuing to stay involved with the state effort, the Louisiana Watershed Initiative that was alluded to earlier, that Casey's an integral part in, and we're just, as Acadiana Planning Commission, we're championing Acadiana, our region, and championing our priorities here at the state level and ensuring that we're continually coordinating with them, but also making sure that our needs are met here locally. So thank you for allowing me to share this information tonight.
Thank you, Rachel. Don't forget, there's going to be a public comment and question session after all the speakers are about to speak. So with that, we'll move on to, we have some federal and state folks here. We have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers representatives from the Corps, from New Orleans. I don't know the gentleman's name, but would you come up here and introduce yourself, sir? And tell us about what you're doing for us in this watershed.
All right, thanks for having me, everyone. Happy to be here. Thank the Sierra Club and the Acadiana Citizens for flood prevention. I just want to let you know some of the, well, really, I guess let's start at the highest level about how the Corps does projects. Just kind of a basic thing. The Corps generally needs two things. We need authority from Congress, and we also get our money from Congress. So there's really not much unilateral action that the Corps can take. We're generally directed by Congress. In fact, I heard a citation read, and you heard it was by some senators and some others. So that's generally how the Corps gets its things. And then when we do go to construction, we generally need what's called a non-federal sponsor. So groups like the Acadiana Planning Commission, your local governments, state governments, like CPRA, GOSEP in some cases. It's really important to the projects that we can do once we get funding. But what I'm about to present to you will probably become clear is that funding is probably the hardest thing to do. So it's already been echoed here a few times tonight. You have it on your tip sheet, the list of folks to contact. I'd say focus definitely on Congress and your senators as well. You don't want to just miss out on. And the local governments are important too because they help when it comes around to funding these things. Local government may need help from the state. So everyone needs to be kind of tied together, and I think Acadiana has done a really good job of tying together the 7 parishes. I think it's excellent work. And then for you all to be here, I mean, it's amazing. I get paid to work on water resources. You here for free because you're engaged in your civic duty. I think, in my opinion, especially in South Louisiana, where I'm from New Orleans, but we're all from South Louisiana, water is king. And so I think the civic duty is probably more important than jury duty, in my opinion. So anyways, let me tell you a little bit about authorized projects. I heard one question about dredging. So the Corps is authorized to dredge the Vermilion River. That's one part of it. We have not, the last construction contract let go under that authority was in 1998. So that gives you an idea of the last time we got money. It's 21 years ago. I guess that
that time span is old enough to drink at this point legally. So, you know, that now to say, if we did get money on the Vermilion River, there's some things we'd have to do. Actually, I think Rachel kind of mentioned it, you know, the science and the data, upstream and downstream. If we were to dredge the Vermilion River to its authorized dimensions, the Corps does have to embark on an H&H analysis. And in fact, we did get $200,000 this year to start doing that H&H analysis, to begin it at least. I don't know if it would be enough to do a very comprehensive model, but I just want to let you know that that is positive movement for Vermilion and the Teche, because there are portions of the Teche that are under that authority. Second, this is not every parish mentioned, so this will probably fall a little short of pleasing everyone, but it is positive movement. As part of the 2016 floods, the Corps got a lot of supplemental money. It's commonly called the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018. And we did a New Start study. We're doing a study in South Central Louisiana that's St. Martin, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes. So that is some of the parishes. I recognize it's not all of them. And actually, I'm going to segue over to what we're doing for not authorized projects, but what we're trying to get to help you all here. But the South Central, so it's going to go through a 3-year study process. I know that's not great, but it's a lot better than we used to, because we used to average 9 to 10 years for a study. I think so you made a comment about 20 years. It's probably more accurate. So, especially with funding, you know, we start, we stop. But now the 3-year ones have been going really well. We kind of overhauled our entire planning process in 2011. So generally speaking, we come out with recommendations to Congress within 3 years, and that's the path that the South Central study is on. The potential future projects, these are things that do not have authority from Congress. So this is where you all can get engaged. And I speak to all of you, including us at the Corps. I can't go lobby my congressional folks for money as the Corps of Engineers. We're not allowed to do that. It really rests on the citizens and interesting groups like Sierra Club, et cetera, to do that. So really, you're doing the right thing just by being here. I'll wrap it up. So we've been budgeting since 2016, the flood, for the west of the Mississippi River, and it is a very large study, which is what it says, west of the Mississippi River. It sounds like Casey, your group, and he'll talk more about the Louisiana Watershed Initiative, but USACE has offered data. We certainly want to be a partner in that to the maximum extent that we can, but we have a lot of data from other studies that were across the state, and even some here. So the Corps plans to be engaged in that. We also do the Silver Jackets Initiative, but that usually doesn't result in construction, at least not from the federal government. And then I just want to tell a real quick anecdote, because it really happened this morning. I was at the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority board meeting this morning in New Orleans with our head civilian, Mark Wingate. Some of you may know him. And actually, I worked directly for Mark. And he told a story, or he had a slide that said studies are important. So I'm going to go counterflow here. They are a pain. I understand. In fact, when I got to the Corps almost 10 years ago now, I couldn't believe how long it took. But I just watched a project that I was personally responsible for in the study phase, which is the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain levee system, a very large, $750 million project, get funded for $760 million. And yes, that study process took a long time, but the federal government is putting up 65% of the money for that project, and is going to protect over 70,000 people. So I just want to reiterate, I know studies are kind of like anathema. You don't really, oh God, they just want to study again. But there are real good consequences, which is actually an opportunity when we do studies. So, just want to leave you with funding is the most important thing, and the Corps is here to help in whatever way we can. Thank you all very much for having me, and certainly be open for any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Glad to really hear some progress about taking a look at the river. That's really good news. Next, we have Casey Tinker from the GOSEP, State of Louisiana, GOSEP Governor Office of Emergency Preparedness. And they have a role in all of this, and he's going to tell you about it.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you for the invitation. I want to echo what you've already heard and what you can see just by looking around. One of the things that we've been so impressed with at the state level as we work across the state. 2016 was a difficult year for our whole state. The March flooding event impacted every corner of the state. Obviously, what happened in August of 2016 impacted this area, the capital area, and some others significantly. And as we've worked across the state, the level of collaboration when we get to Acadiana has been something that has been so helpful to us and so important to see. And I just want to reiterate how important that will be as we move forward. I want to just highlight two things really quickly on behalf of the state. The Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness that I work for, we help manage FEMA funds. So the FEMA funding process, Rachel touched on some of the projects that are underway. We help facilitate that process of funding for those projects. And that funding opportunity, the application periods are all closed right now, but there's going to be more money coming in the future, and the fact that you're identifying projects and identifying areas of need and establishing the partnerships, whether that's at the parish level, the local level, the community level, to identify what needs to happen, that's a critical part of being ready when those funding opportunities come along. The second thing that I want to mention just really quickly is the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. So following 2016, Governor John Bel Edwards asked all of our state agencies to figure out how we better work together within either the recovery process or the mitigation process so that we don't see something like that happen again. Obviously, 30 inches of rain in certain places is very difficult to protect against. But some of the flooding was very minimal, and certainly more could have been done to prevent that, and that's what he's asked us to do. He signed an executive order in May of this year, or May of 2018, to create the Louisiana Watershed Council, and GOSEP sits on that council. And we've kicked off the Louisiana Watershed Initiative, and so you can go to the website watershed.la.gov, watershed.la.gov, and track the progress of this initiative as we kick it off. There are two things that are soon to be underway as a part of that initiative. One is updated hydraulic modeling across the state. The last time the state had an updated study of all of its streams and drainage was in the mid-1980s statewide. Now, locals have done that modeling and have that updated at a local level, but at a state level, the whole thing needs to be updated, and we're going to do that. And then the other thing is that Congress has appropriated $1.2 billion in mitigation funds that will be partially used for projects. And so we anticipate in the near future the state announcing the application period for $100 million in projects funding across the state for things like retention and detention and storage and projects that make common sense that don't have the potential for harming someone upstream or downstream. And incentivizing that regional collaboration that's already at work here. And so I wanted to bring those things to your attention to let you know that the state is engaged. We spend a lot of time over here in Acadiana working with our parish partners and Acadiana Planning Commission and supporting them in any way that we can. And we're going to keep that going because this is critical. At GOSEP, we are also responsible for leading the statewide response. So when something bad is happening, if it's a tornado, if it's a flood, whatever the event is, leading that response. And I've personally been in those meetings with people that have been impacted by those disasters. And if there's anything that we can do to avoid those types of things, it's incumbent upon all of us to do that. And so on behalf of the governor, on behalf of the state, we're engaged to do everything that we can to assist with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. And next up we have Colonel Greg Ellison from Representative Higgins' office. John Chokan's going to speak for Higgins' office. Here's your chance to lobby for them to help us get the funding needed to do these projects.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not as knowledgeable as someone like Mr. Harold, but we do have knowledge in other areas. I will tell y'all that, of course, you already know this, we do have a large problem with drainage here, and a large part of that is due to neglect. Over the years, things not being done, money's not being allocated properly. Congressman Higgins says all the time, you can't get any more south than South Louisiana. We take the flow of water and sediment from all the way north as far as Canada. Congressman Higgins believes that the money ought to follow the sediment. So I promise you this, if you get a plan and everybody gets together on it and decides exactly what needs to be done, Congressman Higgins will go to bat for the money. He's done it before. He's done it with the Calcasieu River. He's gone to bat and he's explained to the president about the money following the settlement. And since we're getting all the water and all the sediment, or most of it, we should get most of the money. So, all of y'all put your heads together, get us a plan, and we will get you the money.
I saw Dr. Abid from UL walk in here, I don't know where he went, but he was supposed to speak too. Okay, there he is, just in time. Okay, yeah, but before we get to you, Doctor, Warren, we had you on the agenda. Do you have any additional words from the words you spoke before that you'd like to speak to? If you have any additional information that you would like to present. Okay, Dr. Abid, you're up. If you're around, where to go? Okay, walk back there. Okay, he's, Dr. Abid is the director of, you have to tell us, he works at UL, okay? He's head of one of the engineering initiatives at UL. He'll tell us, he can tell you what he's doing, what UL is doing in regard to the flooding in the community here. Dr. Abid?
Thank you, everybody. I was told I have 5 minutes, but as any professor, I can go on forever. So stop me, please, when I go too long. So thank you for the invitation to speak and give some notes about UL.